Hey guys, it's Brendan and Jordo here. We are here for another week. This time to talk about how to make your own luck. And in business, you always see people saying, "Oh, they're so lucky. They've got everything that I could want," or they don't really have to work very hard. And a lot of the time, it's because they don't see what's actually happening behind the scenes. But as a business owner, you can also be like, oh wow, that person's really lucky, they're getting all of this work, and what am I doing that they're not doing? And yeah, it really comes down to a lot of the time making your own luck and making sure that you're doing everything you can, cancelling out those distractions, having a good routine, and just really setting yourself up for a win in business. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. And so Jordo.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks for introducing me early on, Brandon. Appreciate that. No, he's really good. I think, Brandon, that's a real cool topic, and we appreciate you tuning in today, wherever you may be, whether you be in the car or you're at work. This is, Brandon, yeah, I agree. Like Brandon raised this topic, and today we want to talk about this, and I think it's so true. I know I hear people say, hey, you're so lucky. And if we tie this back into what we spoke about last week, Brandon, is like we spoke about, we measure ourselves against what we can see. We spoke about Chinese bamboo, and we talk about that growth above the ground. It's people can see the little, someone used an analogy today, is like that iceberg, right? 10% above the water, 90% below. We've all seen that, in a picture of that they do to motivate and inspire you. But the reality is that, and so some people who have done all that, and you're judging them on this little bit above the water, they could take a bit of offense to that, but a lot of people don't even make it to that little bit above the water, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't get, they fall off sort of in that journey there. And I suppose some of the things we'll talk about today is like, you got to make your own luck. And I suppose there's an element of like, for us to get there, there's a lot of things that can sort of sidetrack us. And you had some topics we want to touch on, Brandon, so I'll let over to you. We'll discuss this.
Yeah, I guess probably the biggest one that I struggle with, right, is that, I've got a really good routine, and you do too, Jordan. We get up nice and early every day. For myself, I'll then go to gym, spend some time there, go to work, and then get in the mindset for the day, and plan everything out, what that day is going to look like for me. But, like we were talking about the other day, you can have such a good couple of weeks or week even, and you're just like, man, this is great. Everything's going so well. And then it just stops, it plateaus, and the phone stops ringing, or something just stops bringing in more work. And you're always like, oh, terrified that that's going to happen. But what is the root cause of that? And a lot of the time it can be the complacency, like, oh, I'm not going to worry about advertising on Facebook or Google this week because I know that I'm going to get phone calls anyway. And so, there's just that element of complacency that I think that we can all really struggle with, because it's all going good until it's not. And we need to make sure that we're continuously building upon last week's wins. That way we're able to continue.
Yeah, of course. And I think with so many distractions, what you mentioned, like routine, right? Like routine. And the reason I like routine is, so my routine starts about 4:30 in the morning. Don't set an alarm, just body clock, right? Never used to be like winter. I'll be honest, winter that probably pushes to 5:30. But in like the months like now, it's sort of 4:30. Body wakes you up. I have this certain routine. I'll make a drink in the morning, and then I just punch out some emails, because I find like that routine gives me a bit of a buffer, like 3 hours in the morning, where it's not distracted. That's worth 5 hours in the middle, 6 hours in the middle of the day, any other time. I also know guys who are really successful who, even if it's every day of the year, whenever they wake up 5 in the morning, they jump in the pool. Like they go in, even in winter, and they start the day off doing something they don't want to do. But where routine and structure is really good is it gives me a calibration and a tether. So if I do get distracted, I know at certain points throughout the day, or what I do, or even if it's the next day when I refresh and do those emails, back on track. And that's really important, because you can get complacent. I'll share my own experiences. I've done this. You know, you have like this cracking week, could be a cracking day, and then toward you sort of like, you know, I'll take it a bit easier. And we'll talk about a bit later about making time for yourself. I think that's important. But
Yeah.
I've done that. You know, you can have a stellar 2 weeks, and you're like, I'm just going to kick back a bit. Guilty as charged. Have done that in the past. Do I do it now? No. You know, I really make that time selective, because this is the thing is like you understand your sales process or your pipeline. If it takes you 3 weeks to you're in that sales cycle, for some people it can be 2 hours, 6 days, but I believe in having a fat pipeline. Fat pipeline is my security, and I've done that where we just have this kick-ass pipeline and we punch out all the jobs. And then it's sort of like, I need a bit of we don't need to just someone take it back 70%, pay the price for that 6 weeks later in a massive way. So it's also about, you know, keep the pipeline full, know what you need. That's what I do.
Yeah, no, I like what you say there, how, you know, it's, you need to make time for yourself, because it's, you know, having this routine and that it's not easy. Waking up and getting out of bed early is not easy. And it all comes back down to commitment, and you've made the commitment to leave your day job to start a business and potentially to hire staff, and you owe it to them to make sure that you are firing on all cylinders at all times. And so, you know, I think it is really important that you set aside a little bit of time each week, you know, which we will dive into a little bit more later, but it's, you know, that anti-burnout time, and where, you know, you can have a hobby and you go and do that hobby, or you just go and get some time out, take a hike, you know, enjoy quiet, because it's just so nice after 5 p.m. when the phone calls stop. And early in the morning, that little bit of time where you're not getting phone calls constantly, although apparently some of my customers think it's okay to message at 3 a.m. And so it's yeah, not always quiet. But yeah, no, I really like that, Jordan. It's definitely, yeah, hard to have consistency without complacency. And it's yeah, I definitely struggle with it all the time. And I think it's one of those things where we've got to be honest with ourselves. We've got to be like, okay, it's going to be an extra 2 hours of my day spent really just nutting it out. I'm going to do that for 4 days and then take the 5th day off or something like that, just to make sure that there's going to be that fat pipeline. Like you said, you know, we're not going to be going on Friday, cutting it early and not doing anything else through the week to ensure that we've got work the following week. And, you know, it's a bit of a complacency thing that I sort of have with Genesis Electrical, is that we have a really great week, and we knock off early every Friday, because, you know, we're working really hard throughout the week. And then on a Sunday afternoon, I'll sit down and I'll get everything, like just the basic outline for the week set up so the boys know what's coming up. And it always terrifies me, because I'm like, did I do enough last week to make sure that we had work here for this week? And I'll do it, and it's like, oh wow, it's actually, the timetable's looking pretty bare. What are we going to do? And then, you know, every Monday for the first 5 hours, my phone is off the hook. People asking me to book in last minute and all that sort of stuff. And it's amazing, but at the same time, it is that element of complacency there. And then I'm like, okay, I can't let that happen again. So I'm going to go really hard this week. I'm going to spend those extra couple of hours a day and go hard. But then that consistency isn't there. And because I get complacent again, and it's just this recurring cycle. And I think it's, yeah, being honest with yourself about where you're at and what your strengths and your weaknesses are, and then working towards, okay, how do I address these? And how do I, you know, I don't need to focus on my strengths as much, because that is a strength. How do I focus on these weaknesses? Do I need to be finding some sort of application that can better plan my day and keep me on track? Is there, you know, do I need an admin? All that sort of stuff. Something that can, where you can help either keep yourself accountable or have someone that can keep you accountable to that time. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I think big thing for me is you got to work smarter, not harder. Like, I talk to people, I'm like, how are you? And they're like, I'm so busy. And there's good busy and there's bad busy, right? And sometimes people create their own busy, and it's it's all noise, right? Like you can get in, you can get stuff done. I mentioned like I do it in a certain time period. The benefit to that for me is if I know that I've got those 3 hours in and the day gets sort of noisy, busy, or if I need to take some time to step away, I'll step away.
Yeah.
If I want to go play golf in an afternoon on a Friday, like doing it with the boys once a month, I'll do it. I'll do it guilt-free because I work my ass off. Do you know, I make my own luck. Not real lucky on the golf course. You play golf. Not good. But anyway, probably need lessons there. Take time off for some lessons as well. But working smarter is really important. I had a dinner with a guy probably a number of months ago, but he works in this organization. He may even be on this the group here, or who are listening to the podcast. They got about 200 staff, but they implemented this 4-day work week. And what they do is for the first 12 months of their doing someone's employment, you don't qualify, say, until about 9 months in. So 9 months in, then they say, hey, you're heading up to a year. What we're going to do for the next 3 months, we're actually going to teach you how to work effectively and efficiently. And we're going to teach you how in 4 days, you can get 5 days worth of work done. In those 4 days, only at 8 hours. So they work 30 hours a week. And what happens though, is on that 5th day, okay, they're still paid for that day. So they get paid for 38 hours, but they only work 30. But what the business does is they realize that they do need to take time off and they need to recharge. So what they say is for that day though, it's not about babysitting the kids. It's not about, running the kids to school or whatever it may be. It has to be something. So they tell their staff on that day, we're going to pay you. So it's still a work day. You're not required to come to work, but we want you to take up a hobby, do something that you love. If you like to sit by the pool and read a book, that time is about you and focus on you and your recharge. And they find like their productivity. So the productivity in comparison to someone working a 5-day week, this person's then working a 4-day week.
Yeah.
And they're like 30% up on productivity, right?
Yeah, wow.
There you go. So it shows how mindset and obviously a smart use of time can really benefit you, working way less. And that's really what I try and adopt in my own life and in business. So ideally, like you said, find the strengths, find the weaknesses, find where you can streamline and make efficiencies. And that way, if you do need to take time for yourself, you can do it guilt-free. Understand for some people, that this is a journey. Okay, don't do it next week if you're not prepared. But over time, hopefully and in the podcast, we will explore ways that you can do that. So, which is good.
That's one really good thing is there's a lot of different ways. There isn't one right way that works for everybody. You got to figure out what works for you, what works for your business. If you staff, what works for your staff, because sometimes your staff just can't be that efficient. They don't have the same drive, and that's something I think I've realized really early on, is that your staff don't always have the same drive as you, right? Your business, it's your face, your name, and they can screw it up for you very quickly. And so it's about making sure that you are creating that right culture in the workplace, and you'll, I guess, effectively getting that across and relaying that to them, like, okay, this is what we expect of you, but this is what this is not only what we expect of you, but this is what our vision is for you, and
that's important,
how we expect you to get there. And so by creating that that method of operation, or that relationship with your staff, I think it can really open up a lot of areas where they can excel, and then you can sort of learn their strengths then, not just your own. You can learn their strengths, their weaknesses, and then help focus on those weaknesses as well. And I hate saying the word weakness, because like it's not necessarily a bad thing. Everyone's different, but I think it's everyone does have areas they do need to work on. It's something pushing them along, helping people, and that's why as a business owner, it's so handy to have a mentor or someone like that. I've got like 3.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And this is the thing, like if someone thinks that, if I speak to someone, they don't have a weakness, naive, right?
Yeah.
Egotistical narcissists, right?
Jordan 5 years ago.
I like what, it's been big self-development, right? So with that though, like with staff too, I like what you shared. A lot of times, as you know, I've got the HR company, and in our business, we meet business owners all the time, and no one's going to be more passionate about your business than you are.
Yeah.
But a lot of times when I meet employees, they have this unrealistic expectation that I just wish they cared about it like I do. Some, you know, for a period of time, some staff may care a lot, but at the end of the day, a lot of times loyalty to the paycheck. People are motivated by different things. Others it's security, others it's a sense of purpose. And you mentioned like find their personality types. That is so true. Identify how their value set aligns with your value set and your goals, and you share that vision with them. And we really want staff to buy into that. And sometimes staff are with you. I'll share something to share with me. Sometimes staff are with you for a long period of time, and other times it's for a short period of time. And as that was a former employer of mine many years ago said that. And I speak with employers and they're like, oh, this person's leaving, they've got to start their own business. And rather than actually celebrating that and sort of really shaping them for what's to come, they take offense, they take it personal because their business is so important to them. But that topic was really good, or that saying was important to me because he also added, he said, and when I realized that some staff are with me for a short period of time, I realized that it's my job to make them the best version of themselves in that period of time for me or for the next stage of their life or for the next employer. Okay. And I'll get the benefit from it throughout that. And that's really important because with staff members as well, there's always different people in a business. We may have a sales team, they're schmick, they put all the runs on the board, and then you've got with reception or operations or service team or service delivery team. And a lot of times it becomes stovepiping in this, or siloing in the business, us versus them.
Yeah.
And it can cause these cultural divides. What I think is really important, you said, speak about the vision and the part that they play. If I use an example of whatever football team that you play, or whatever football team, it could be NFL, it could be soccer, but we'll use like rugby league as an example. But in most football teams like NFL or rugby league or rugby union, you got these big guys at the front. Their job is not to be fancy though, like the guys who kick the ball and pass the ball. Their job is actually just to run 10 meters or so, put it down, and generally let the back guys do the work. So they really clear an area and they put space between them. Yeah. If that team was made up of all those big guys, they'll get slaughtered by the other team because they're too slow, right, and too bulky. And if it was these guys at the back who have all these skills, and we were to take the big guys away and just put a team of all back rowers, they're going to get cleaned up by the big guys because they don't have that force. So a business and its success is really based on all key team members of different abilities, different sizes, whatever it may, figurative sizes, and how we work together, because that team together wins premierships, right? It's not just one position in there. And the same is true in business. Us together and collectively, we succeed, we win. So yeah, important for me, that is.
I think, and it's, whether you're a sole trader or people with stuff, all of that can play a part, because you're never, even as a sole trader, you're not just working for yourself. You're working for people that contract you in and all that sort of stuff. So you can create them to be advocates for your company as well, and create that culture, I guess, within your company, but for how people, I guess, react towards you in your company as well. And so your contractors or people that contract to you, I think it's you're able to, I guess, set the tone for how you run your business and what that looks like. You get to set what your values are, and people sort of have to respect that. It's your business at the end of the day. And so it all comes around a mindset, and it's about, not just, I guess, your values, and not about distractions and all that sort of stuff, but just creating a mindset where you know what your goal is at the end of this, what your top is, you're winning, and what you're going to do to get there. Writing that down, having it somewhere where you can see it all the time. That way it's present in your foreground. It's always there.
Yeah, I like that. It's if anyone's sort of done a bit of navigation, you're looking at buying a boat today, right? Well, you did buy a boat, right? So okay, I'll share this.
Small boat, because this is wealthy.
A well-priced boat. So no, that's good, man. But when you go out, like I remember my wife's father is an avid fisherman, and it's what happened. Sometimes when you go out on it can be bad weather or whatever, you plot your course on a GPS. So you look it in front of you, and what you do is you will say, okay, I want to go from point A to point B. and it will plot that course out, and it shows in a little dotted line where you are in the boat. So course is here and you're here. And I've noticed that, like, when we're holding, you're going over waves and you're holding the steering wheel, this is how I drive a boat. And I was chatting to my father-in-law a little bit, and you sort of, you chat away. And then you look back at the GPS, and all of a sudden you realize over the course of maybe a minute or so, I'm this far off track.
Yeah.
And that, like, and then you're like, oh my goodness, and I've got to take all this time and go back and back on track. So a journey that should be like this ends up like this. And no, I don't drink when I'm on a boat, but it's just, so I think this, obviously that GPS or that core, that guideline it's a reference point.
Yeah.
And I think as business owners, we need a reference point, or we need a tether. If you don't have one, put a business plan in place. Otherwise, we're just sort of flying blindly. You know what I mean? You're actually just driving out into the ocean. The chance that you're actually going to hit that reef is very low.
Yeah.
I share an analogy on this and why visualization and goals is really important. Okay. I've got to remember what this was. But so just say I pit you, imagine yourself up against, and I put you next to the world's best archer, right? The person who just won the gold medal at the Olympics that we've just had. So gold medalist in archery. And I put you there, never shot a bow and arrow in your life. But there's two, and I put a target in front of you, and I say, Brandon, I actually want you to sort of hit the center of that target. So you have your attempt, and even though it may not hit the center, it could be quite far off. I then get the world's best archer, right? They see the target, and I say, I need you to hit the center of that target. Then I put a blindfold on them, and I spin them around 10 times. And I say, now shoot the center of the target. That is, and now we tie this back to business. You can have all the skills in the world, right? Yeah. But if you don't have a target you can see, and you can't see that target, the only chance of you hitting it is blindly, by sheer luck. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, that you can have no skills in the world, like, or limited skills. I'll give more credit for that with the bow and arrow, Brandon. But the thing is, if you've got a target, you've got a vision clearly aligned, even with minimal skill set, you've got a good chance of getting close to that target, rather than someone with all the skills who's got no tether, who's got no vision. And vision or goals keep you aligned. Like we may talk about it on another episode or today, but like visualization, unless it's backed by effort, counts for nothing.
Yeah.
And it keeps you tethered. Sometimes I've done this. We're talking about distractions. You get to a fork in the road. Okay, do you know what? We got a bit of money in the bank, can buy a new car or invest it in some marketing. Obviously, if we've got a goal there, or whether you do that with a vision board or it's just in your business plan, hopefully that will direct you in the right, down the right path. Yeah. And I hope you enjoy that Mercedes. So, but like, in all seriousness and jokes aside, like, that's, if that is, and keep in mind, that could be your goal. I don't know, make a joke about it or make light of it. You may say, do you know what? I actually feel really professional when I'm in a professional car. And if I get to this and I get X amount of money in the bank, I'm going to do that. Reward yourself. If your accountant says yes, reward yourself. I'll share this. I made the mistake once of, well, it was a mistake. Yeah. I was on the proviso of, I asked forgiveness rather than permission.
Yeah.
I brought one of those, there's a real good SUV, and I was like, I never had one. So I brought a Porsche, those Cayenne turbos.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell my accountant because a few years back, and he calls me up and he's like, did you just buy a car? I was like, I've had it for like 6 months, man. He's like, call us next time. So, but you got to have a bit of a laugh. But visualization of those goals really help. What do you do for goals, Brandon? Like, what do you set? How do you visualize it? I'd love to know.
It's funny because it's the moving goalpost, right? Like it's when I started Genesis Electrical, it was just going to be me and another guy in a ute driving around doing general electrical work. Didn't want to touch solar. 90% of our work now is solar. We ended up, growing to 6 staff members in 6 months. So like it was constantly going, and how I was talking about the why and how important that is in business. That was my way of navigating in those forks in the road. And so I'm like, okay, am I actually making decisions based on that why, on those actual goals? My goal is flexibility, to be able to take time to spend with my family while my kids are young, you know, like it's so important because they grow up so fast. And so I'm just like, okay, I'm just making decisions based on potential for better income, for growing my business faster, and then I'll get my flexibility. But it's done the complete opposite, you know. Instead of my business working for me, I work for my business, and continuing to do that. And so what have I done now? I have actually articulated where I want that business to be and how I want that to work for me. And so now we're making changes. We're in the process of that. We're actually going to be pulling back a little, pulling the reins, lowering our overheads, so we do have flexibility to be able to say like, hey, let's have a 4-day week, or let's have shorter days or something like that, so that we can, I guess, have that culture of work hard, play hard at the same time, and just enjoying the things that are important in life. And so for me, that's where that was, you know, said to me by multiple people very early on, was like, have something, like you said, that helps guide your decisions based on the why you're in business, your values. Does it align with your values? Are you making a decision based on greed, or are you making a decision that's going to create an advocate, which is going to bring in more work for you and all that sort of stuff? So if you've got a chance to charge for something that you quoted on but didn't end up doing, and the customer probably will never know, well, you're not going to charge for it if your values are set up that way. Instead, you're going to let the customer know, like, hey, actually, we've saved you some money on that quote, and so we're, you know, not going to charge you for that. And suddenly you've got a 5-star review on Google. You've got 3 more customers that have come in because this other person's just raved about you. And it's like, not by accident, you know, you're doing these things on purpose because it aligns with your values, with your goals, with where you want to be. And for me, I had that greed complex at the start of the year. I had so many opportunities present themselves to me, and we grew ridiculously. And the byproduct of that was a lot of early mornings, and a lot of late nights, a lot of anxiety. And it's been tough, man. Like, you know, there's in July, I cried 3 times in my adult life. And I got married, and then the birth of each of my kids. And I cried in July when it was just after seeing our accountant, actually. And he's like, you've got to make some changes, man, because you've got a lot of overheads and your income isn't matching that, and you're eventually going to run dry. And what he was saying wasn't fully true. He just was seeing a tiny little aspect of it. But it really made me take a step back and go, oh, wow, yeah, you know, I have been taking my eye off the goalpost and off where I'm wanting to be and why I'm doing it. And I've just been focusing on making all the money when really we've been making less money. And then so that was just a huge pivotal point for me, where I then started to implement some changes and change the way that we just do business in general. And then we have had some kick-ass months. Like, we have just been doing so well in the last 4 months now. And again, like, and so what I'm doing now is every 6 months I'm going, okay, where are we at? And is this still on track? You know, like you said, you're having a conversation and you pivot off. And so at the 6 months mark, we've already sort of started setting some things in place. But now I'm like, okay, we're going to be changing it up a little bit more. And so a few things changed today, which were really huge. And there's going to be more that change shortly. And so I think that for me is a big thing, is having goals, values, and the why in your foremind constantly, and then reevaluating and reassessing where you're at regularly.
Yeah, I like that, man. That's really good. I think that word you used before, it's become, it's a bit of, hopefully it doesn't become words like culture, right? But it's a bit of a sexy word at the moment, pivot, right? We're pivoting. I think probably COVID sort of like, just pivot, like, and it's so good. It's like, you know, and it is, I think pivot really speaks to the ability to leverage off circumstances or a situation or at a time where we can, we identify that there's potential other strategies and we shoot off it, which is really good. So I think it's a cool word. I try and use it a little bit now too. On that though, like talking about pivoting to me speaks to a proactive approach rather than reactive. Probably one of my two favorite words, right? We see it in HR. But we mentioned business plan. With a business plan, if you're doing if you've even got one, right? A lot of people don't have it. Business plan is your goal, it's your tether, it's your target, or it serves part of that target, it's part of that purpose, and is a tool to capture those things. A lot of people, if you are doing your business plan once a year, once every 3 years, right? If you're doing it for an application for a grant, whatever it may be, way too long. Because like my best so BDMs, right? So BDMs in a company, my sales team, the guys that work in that space, quarterly, they do their quarterly, this is what I'm going to do. And you see from one quarter to the next, it's pretty similar, right? There might be something changed, very rarely. I've worked very closely with best BDM out there. What he does, you jump in the car with him. He actually has his business plan printed in the visor of the car. You can get in the car and you pop it down. And I'm like, what have you done with the business plan? And changes it on a daily basis. Like I've seen, I feel like I can do this better. So constantly evolving, constantly pivoting, earning potential. What he earns compared to everyone else, twice as much. That's the difference. So in business, it works in that space. I'm not saying as a business owner, you evolve that plan every day. You should be thinking about it every day. And you should be revisiting it, every quarter. Hey, where does this work? Hey, granted, do I do mine every quarter? No. I have all, I understand my numbers. I know my numbers. And I try and revisit it. I could revisit it once a quarter, 10 times in 6 weeks. But start with, if you don't have one, start with a business plan. Revisit it as much as you can, and share that business plan with obviously the other directors, your accountant, and have accountability partners who will keep you tethered. I think that's really important. That's probably what I would leave them with today. I don't think it's neither necessarily has to be a financial business plan either. It can be want to be, it's not all about the money. It's about lifestyle as well. And so it's about what works for you, what works and motivates your employees. And then, having that plan and revisiting it, being accountable. That's, I 100% agree with that, because it's so easy when you're not being held accountable to just... Free reign, right? Buy a car, don't tell the accountant, like that sort of.
That's right.
But you and I have written business plans together as well in the past, and like people as part, get a good template there as well, or get someone who knows what they're talking about to help you. These days we've got marketing strategy, but one of the key takeaways is people poo-poo this, but every business plan you do, understand your numbers, understand your industry, do a SWOT analysis. But you and I do, we will do a pestle analysis. So if you haven't heard of that, give that a Google. But it is, you cover political, economic, socioeconomic, environmental, technology, legal, and environmental. I threw an E in there, can't spell pestle. But so example of that is when you get to technology, you ask, and for each of those things, political, you ask 2 questions. How can a change in technology benefit our business, or how can a change in technology impact our business? For example, is our business going automated? I could have a business that operated cabs a number of years ago. Could an app be developed that impacts my business? There were a lot of guys who made a lot of money with cabs, with 15, 20 cabs, who are severely impacted now. See, and that's where this forward planning is. Political, and an example in our industry, could a political shift or a change in political parties impact our business in a good way? Labor comes in, I'll print more money. And this is the thing, because it's going to be harder for employers. But could an environmental change, a political change impact our business in a negative way? Fair work changes legislation, which makes it harder for employers. Absolutely. So it's those little things. So think about your business, go over that. And that's what business owners should be doing. Consider all A SWOT analysis is very internal. A pestle analysis covers all external factors. That way, we're not just sort of consider what's out there, because we are definitely impacted by external influences. Yeah, so that's probably the takeaway for me today. Business plan, don't have one, get one.
That's awesome. Don't have one, get one. No, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Jordan. Thank you everyone for watching.
Thanks everyone.
It's been great, and I look forward to next week. We'll see you all then.
Thanks for tuning in. See you guys.
Yeah.